So we'll go back to your introduction into wrestling, and you talked about how you had this storyline pitched to you sight unseen. If you could briefly just tell our audience how it was that you started training for professional wrestling, because I found this story interesting as well.
Yeah, the interesting part of the story is there was no training in the professional wrestling. I mean, literally no training. When Animal called me that morning, he told me the story, and I asked him this question. I go, do they know I have no amateur wrestling background, none, like zero, and zero professional training? A lot of rumors fly around that I went through Eddie Sharkey's school. I did not. A lot of the other guys did. I did not. I was training for pro football. And so when I called Jim Crockett that morning, Joe gave me the number. I called Jim Crockett and I said, now, Mr. Crockett, you understand, before I come to a city where I've never been, you understand I've got no amateur background, no professional training. You understand? He says, yes, I do. And I said, and you're okay? Okay, and you're good with that? Yep. I said, well, what's the next step? And he literally just said this. He goes, be in my office on such and such a day with your head shaved, bald. I go, that's it? Basically, yeah, that's it. I go, okay, see you then. So literally a 5-minute phone call, sight unseen. No cell phones in those days, so you're not snapping a selfie and sending it over. So 2 months later, I drove into it. I loaded everything up in my car that I had to my name, which wasn't much. All the money I had to my name, which wasn't much. Drove to a city that I'd never been to before. Walked into the office the day he said to be there. Introduced myself. And Nikita Koloff was born in the hallways of Charlotte, North Carolina that day.
Man, wow. Wow, that's unbelievable. That's a fantastic story. I mean, I would imagine I would imagine they probably figured you were pretty well trained. I mean, if you were heading, trying to go for a career in professional football, that I'm sure, obviously back in the day and everything like that, there was a lot of training going on there. So I'm sure that's probably why they figured, hey, this guy's going to fit right in.
Well, the interesting thing, again, no pictures. No, I mean, he didn't say, send me a photo of you or nothing. He just said, be in my office on this. I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. And the interesting part of the story is, to give you a little more backstory, the interesting part of the story is if I go back to age 12, when I fell in love with weightlifting, picked up a magazine called Iron Man.
Oh yeah.
It was a bodybuilding magazine. And really, I was infatuated by the guys. I'm like, man. And I remember saying these words. It's important part of the story. At age 12, I said these words. I said, one day, I'm going to look like one of the guys in this magazine.
Wow. Fast
forward 12 years, I walk into Jim Crockett's office in Charlotte, North Carolina. And from maybe 100-pound fledgling kid at age 12, when I walked into Jim Crockett's office, sight unseen, so, in a sense, took a chance, but then I took a chance too, right? I took a risk and drove to a city I'd never been.
Absolutely.
When I walked in, what he saw was a guy, it was kind of weird. He asked me to take my shirt off. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird, but okay. But he saw a guy that was 285 pounds, 8% body fat with a 34-inch waist. And so what I said I'd become 12 years prior is what he saw the day I walked into his office.
Wow. Wow, man, that's awesome. There you go. That's it. Almost like it was definitely fate and everything like that there too. That's really awesome. Very cool.
Right. Yeah. Right place at the right time. I fully believe that. No question in my mind. Right place at the right time. And again, I mean, I still had to prove myself, but so the story is very unique in that way. But nevertheless, a door of opportunity was opened, and I walked through it.
That's awesome. And was it kind of the same way with how you were introduced to Ivan Koloff?
Yeah, well, so I'm in his office that day. He says, wait here. He walks out, walks back in with two guys who I didn't have a clue who they were. And he says, Ivan Koloff, Don Cornotto, meet your new tag team partner. And that was my first introduction to those guys. And they were doing interviews there at the office that day. They stuck me on the interview, said, look, you don't speak any English. Part of the story, right? You're just off the boat. I want your shirt off. Ivan, put your chains around his neck. Every time they do an interview, stand there, look mean. I go, okay, I don't have to talk. I stand here, look mean. That should be easy enough, pretty natural. And I get paid to do this, which I guess. I mean, we didn't even talk money. It just said, okay. We did hours of interviews, and then at the conclusion, Crockett said, "Be in Raleigh, North Carolina tomorrow night. You're going to wrestle on television."